Lao Tzu once said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." That saying is not a philosophy to contemplate, but a law operating within your body right now. A crack is forming in the deepest layer of the old frequency. You can feel it by paying attention to the silence between two breaths, where the sound of the outer world fades and something else begins to stir inside. The exhaustion you think is fatigue is in fact the first sign of the collapse of an energetic structure that has existed for too long. When the field decides that a version no longer matches its rhythm, the entire reality begins to vibrate subtly yet irresistibly. It is not punishment, it is rebalancing. What you call crisis is simply the physics of dissolution. Everything you have been trying to maintain is losing compatibility with you, not because you did something wrong, but because the field is forcing you to become real. There are nights when you stare at the ceiling and feel as if your soul is stretching, as if someone inside is calling you home. That is not an illusion. It is a quantum signal announcing that the fracture has begun. The things that once made you feel safe now feel confining. The people who once felt like home now make your heart go silent. When old energy cracks, it does not only take away beliefs, it also takes away the defense mechanisms that once made you think you were surviving. And because of that, you will feel empty. But emptiness is not loss. Emptiness is the space for the first truth to sound, the truth that you were never the things you are losing. When an old frequency fractures, it always produces a sound that the mind hears as fear, but the field hears as freedom. This is the point where most people turn away. They try to glue the fragments back together. To patch a wall the field has already decided must fall, but a few choose to stay, to stand amidst the tremors and not run away. It is there, within the fracture, that a door opens, so small only the soul can recognize it. That door leads to a place you have never been, but have always remembered. That space has no form, but it has a tone, a frequency as light as breath, touching every cell of you and whispering that it is time. Time for all that is untrue to collapse. You do not need to let go. You only need to stop holding on. Transformation does not happen when you try. It happens when you stop resisting. Everything you are experiencing, the vagueness, the distance from people you once loved, the confusion in things that used to be clear, is the physics of energy restructuring itself. Every cell is listening to a new command, a sub-frequency sinking into your nervous system, erasing the language of the old to prepare for a new code. If you listen closely, you will realize this is not pain. Pain only appears when the mind tries to name it. The field does not know suffering, it only knows balance. And when balance calls, everything no longer resonant must disappear. That is not loss, that is precision. The fracture is not the enemy. It is proof that the field is still working, that you are still being rewritten. Your outer world begins to mirror those subtle inner shifts. Conversations lose meaning, work becomes dull, old dreams fall away, as if someone is turning off channels that are no longer needed. Let them turn off. Only when the noise disappears can the new frequency be heard. And then, somewhere in the space between two heartbeats, you will realize this is not the beginning of something new, but the end of what was never real. Every collapse is simply the field cleansing itself. You are not being broken. You are being freed from the structure that once imprisoned the light within you. As the crack widens, the first light seeps through, and that is the moment the field recognizes itself through you. This is not the time to understand, but the time to feel. Because in the sound of the old frequency breaking, what is awakening is not a new version, but the true you, never defined, opening its eyes for the first time. Everything you once believed to be yourself is only reflection. What you call I is not the entity that observes, but the image born from that very act of seeing. When you look into a mirror, you do not see yourself, you only see light bouncing off a surface and returning as an illusion. In the same way, the self you have trusted, protected, and defined for so many years is merely the light of awareness reflecting upon the temporary matter of experience. It has shape, story, and memory, but it has no origin of its own. It lives by being seen. It exists through your attention. Every time you think, I am this kind of person, I am a victim, I am strong, you are feeding energy to a reflection, not to essence. And that reflection is cunning enough to make you forget that the original light did not come from there. It came from behind the mirror, from the place your eyes have never looked directly at, from the place where the field begins to vibrate before the image is created. Since the moment you were born, the world has taught you to know yourself through the reactions of others. You smile when praised, shrink when criticized, adjust yourself to be accepted. In that journey, you believed you were becoming better, but in truth, you were only polishing the surface of a mirror. Every action, every belief, every fear is just one more contact between light and reflection. And with each one, the image becomes brighter, while the original light grows dimmer. That is why the older you get, the farther you feel from yourself. You look into the mirrors of the world, of social media, of other people's eyes, and you see thousands of fragments competing to define who you are. But all of them are out of sync, delayed by a beat from the truth. Because truth never appears in form, it exists only in the light before form. In quantum physics, every particle becomes definite only when observed. Before that moment, it exists in infinite possibilities, undefined, neither particle nor wave. Your sense of self is the same. It becomes rigid only when you believe you are a fixed image. That belief itself is the act of observation that collapses reality into a limited version. Every time you name yourself with an adjective, I am weak, I am strong, I am lonely, you make the field contract around a point, forcing your infinite energy to be imprisoned within a single shape. You are not the image in the mirror, you are the light shining through it, and that light is never confined by the form it creates. The problem is that we have learned to love reflection more than light, because reflection can be touched, admired, compared, while light is invisible. We cling to image because it feels safe, because it has history, position in society, validation. But that safety exists only as long as you agree to remain limited. When the field begins to expand, every reflection starts to fade. That is when you feel lost, when it seems like the world no longer sees you. It is not the world turning away, it is you turning away from the mirror. And for the first time, the light is no longer being reflected. It moves straight, it returns to its source. In that moment, the mind becomes afraid. It tries to call back the old images, the familiar roles, the labels that once defined you. But if you are aware enough not to pick them up again, you will hear the faint sound of the field, like breathing under deep water. It does not command or explain, it simply exists. It waits for you to realize that you were never the reflection, you are the mirror, and beyond that, you are the space in which light and mirror meet. When you see this, every old question about worth or deservingness becomes meaningless. Because how could light need to be praised for being bright enough? How could a mirror need to prove it reflects well? Both are simply the way nature operates. The self is not evil, it is only the mechanism through which the field sees itself within limitation. But you were not born to forever remain the reflection of light. You were born to become the light itself. Those who dare to look beyond the mirror say there is a moment like freefall. No longer knowing who they are, nothing left to hold. no image left to identify with. But within that void, something miraculous happens. When you are no longer bound to reflection, you begin to see the light reflecting from within. It does not come from outside the mirror. It comes from inside your body, from your own heart. That feeling is not excitement, but a deep knowing that you were never lost. You simply forgot that the light never left you. The self is only a tool that allows you to temporarily experience separation so that you can understand what it means to return. And now, as the image begins to dissolve, do not hold on. Let the definitions fade. Let the mirror return to its transparent state. When it no longer reflects, it does not lose its function. It becomes perfect. Because only when it is clear can it let the light pass through. You are standing right at that threshold where the true light is about to pass through the final layer of reflection. Nothing needs to be saved, nothing needs to be proved. Only one thing is needed: complete acceptance that you were never the image, but always the one who sees it. And in the moment you stop looking, the field stops with you. And for the first time, instead of creating another reflection, it begins to look at itself. There is a moment in every transformation when the inner sound suddenly stops. Not because you have found the answer, but because you no longer need the question. It is the moment when the field enters its silent phase, where energy no longer moves to form shapes, but withdraws entirely into its center to prepare for rebirth. This silence is not the stillness of appearance, but the orderly collapse of all previous movements. The mind calls it emptiness, but in quantum physics it is the 0 point, the region where no waves exist, yet all possibilities of waves are contained. And in that space, stillness is no longer an ending, but the mechanism of beginning. When you fall into this zone, you will notice that the world no longer reacts as before. People who once understood you seem distant. Situations that once stirred you now feel strangely calm. You feel as if you are standing in a void, no longer pulled into any storyline, no longer having the energy to fight or justify. The mind will resist. It will tell you that you are disconnected, that you must try to return, that silence is a sign of emptiness. But the field knows it is the sign of rebalancing. Every vibration must pass through a phase of stillness before it reappears in a new form. When the wave stops, it does not disappear, it is gathering. And the energy you feel as fading is actually being compressed into the purest frequency of your own essence. During this time, you will notice a strange phenomenon. Old thoughts suddenly become faint, as if they no longer come from you. Emotions still appear, but they pass through without weight. Every time you try to hold on to a thought, it slips away, no longer strong enough to maintain form. This is because your energy has withdrawn from the old structures. Every memory, every definition that once held power requires the current of awareness to stay alive. When that current is recalled, those images naturally dissolve. You are not losing your mind, you are witnessing the disintegration of an old system no longer being powered. The silence you hear does not come from outside, it is the old noise that has stopped broadcasting. At this stage, many people feel empty and confused. They do not know what to do, what to believe. But it is in this state of not knowing that the extraordinary begins. When there is no mental structure occupying space, the field begins to reorganize itself. Like the sky after a storm, when the wind stops blowing, the dust settles, and the first light can pass through without scattering. Stillness is the cleansing mechanism of the universe. Everything unnecessary falls out of orbit, leaving only the core vibration, the one that existed before you began calling yourself by a name. You may hear unusual pauses in your mind. You may feel time flow differently, faster or slower. That is because You are stepping out of the linear frequency of the mind, where everything is measured by comparison and memory. In stillness, time, contracts. What once took years to understand now requires only a single breath. Awareness no longer moves in sequence, it happens simultaneously, like light filling a room without choosing where to shine. In this moment, you are no longer the seeker, you become the space in which seeking happens. The collapse of old sound may make you think that everything is stopping, but in truth, you are being drawn into the heartbeat of the field. There are no voices, only rhythm. A subtle synchronization between breath and the vibration of the universe. You will feel as if something is moving through your body, but not from the outside in. It is rising from within, like an underground spring finding its way out. It is not new energy, but primordial energy never distorted by the ego. And as it rises, everything incompatible with it dissolves on its own. You do not need to push anything away, you only need to not interfere. In this stillness, the answers you once chased begin to appear, not as words, but as sensations. The feeling of knowing without thought. Like when you touch water and know it is water without needing to describe it. The mind may try to interpret, but the field communicates only through coherence. You will start to notice signals appearing around you. Numbers, lights, sounds, unusual encounters. All are the language of silence. When you are silent, the world begins to speak. And that speech has no sound, yet it is so precise that you will know what to do without any reason. The strangest thing is that this peace does not feel like happiness. It is not excited, not explosive. It is pure clarity, as if everything has just been rearranged and all you need to do is walk forward. You realize you no longer need to try to understand. You are simply being carried by a greater intelligence, one you cannot describe, only trust. And in that trust, you realize that silence is not a pause, but the true pulse of existence. It has always been there, behind every sound, behind every question, behind every action. You only forgot it because you were too busy reacting to surface noise. Now that you have touched the zone of silence, nothing needs to be added. Every breath is a wordless prayer. Every moment you do not try. The field expands on its own. You begin to feel the coherence of everything around you, from your heartbeat to the rotation of the stars. This is the true nature of stillness, not the quiet of avoidance, but the silence of power. When you stop creating waves, you become the ocean. When you stop speaking, you hear the language the universe has always used to call you home. And in that moment, there is nothing more to understand. Because stillness is what you have always been seeking, not knowing that it has always been here, unmoving, waiting for you to stop and realize you have never left it. There is a moment when silence is no longer a state, but becomes a living being. You realize that the breath no longer belongs to you. It does not go out, it does not come in, it moves through you like wind gliding over the surface of a lake. That is when the field begins to breathe through you. Each inhale is no longer an effort of the lungs, but the movement of the whole passing through this form to experience itself. This is not surrender as humans understand it, but the dissolution of the boundary between the breather and the air. When you release the idea of control, the field recalibrates the rhythm of life within you. That relaxation does not come from effort, but from no longer resisting. Every force that once made you heavy now dissolves like mist. In the first moments, the mind will try to define what is happening. It will call it surrender, acceptance, letting go, but all those words are wrong, because there is no one left to let go, and nothing left to hold. When you truly merge with the current of the field, the concept of action disappears. There is no longer you doing only energy operating through you with perfect precision. Your body becomes so light it feels as if it no longer belongs to gravity. You are no longer walking, you are being guided, no longer thinking but being thought, no longer loving but love itself expressing through every cell. This is the deepest form of surrender, where the observer is no longer separate from what is observed. The ego that once fought to hold its place, to protect its image, to prove itself, now within the frequency of surrender becomes transparent. It is not destroyed, it is absorbed. You do not lose the ego, you see through it. When resistance is gone, the energy that was once compressed within you begins to flow freely, like current released from a knot. Each breath becomes a wave expanding outward, affecting the space around you. Others will sense the change without knowing why. They will simply feel peace near you, because your field has begun to function as a frequency regulator, returning everything to its natural rhythm. Surrender is not the act of giving up dreams or desires, but the end of the need to control how they arrive. You no longer pull reality towards you. You open so that reality can pass through. It feels like standing in a river, not swimming, not resisting, just letting the current carry you to where it was always meant to go. Everything begins to align effortlessly. The people you need to meet appear. The doors that need to open by themselves. The opportunities once closed quietly turn their hinges. Not because you did something, but because you have become the frequency of allowance. When you no longer create chaotic waves, the field can clearly mirror your original intention without distortion. This is the stage many confuse with passivity. Passivity is turning off the source of life, while surrender is becoming transparent so life can operate on its own. In that transparency, intuition sharpens not as prediction but as knowing. You will know when to stop, when to act, when to speak, when to be silent. And that knowing does not come from reasoning but from synchronization between you and the field. Everything unfolds like a perfect dance where you no longer distinguish who leads and who follows. One of the first signs of this state is the feeling of time dissolving. Day and night no longer separate. Past and future merge as one. You are no longer moving towards something because all possibilities have converged into the present. What you once called waiting is now simply the maturation of energy. The field breathes slower to teach you the precision of nature. A tree does not need to try to grow, it only needs light. You do not need to force yourself to evolve, you only need to stop blocking the light. Surrender also changes how you perceive the world. Everything becomes softer, even pain. When the field breathes through you, suffering is no longer seen as wrong, but as a form of purification. Emotions appear and pass gently, leaving no residue. You realize you can love without fear of loss, give without need of return. In this state, the energy of love is no longer directed outward, but radiates like waves from an infinite center. You begin to understand why the masters always said love is the essence of the universe, because when the field breathes, the only thing it exhales is love. The final surrender is not the end of the journey, but the equilibrium point where all journeys dissolve into one. When you no longer try to keep yourself separate, life begins to breathe within you with all its intelligence and rhythm. What you once thought was effort now becomes natural. What you once feared to lose now becomes irrelevant. You no longer seek to prove, you simply wish to be present. And in that presence, everything once sought is already here. There is no need to name it, no need to hold it. When the field breathes through you, you become the bridge between energy and form. Every word, action, and glance becomes a conduit for a higher frequency. You are no longer a person living in the world. You are the world observing itself through you. And in that union, breath has no beginning and no end. It simply continues to expand gently, deeply, infinitely, like consciousness unfolding within your form. Surrender is no longer a verb. It is the state of those who remember they have never been separate from the field, and that every breath they take, from beginning to end, is the breath of the universe returning to itself. When the field begins to breathe through you, the energy of the inner light no longer stops at sensation. It begins to rewrite matter. Every cell, every particle in your body that once operated based on the memory of the old frequency is now receiving new instructions. This is the process of recoding, where light does not merely shine through you but is programming your very form anew. The change does not happen in the mind but in the deeper infrastructure of your biological structure, where energy meets matter and commands it to become different. You may feel your body subtly vibrating, your heartbeat shifting its rhythm, your breath sometimes shortening, sometimes reaching deep into your bones. These are signs that the field is rearranging the energy codes, allowing the physical body to gradually synchronize with the frequency of the soul. In science, this is called the phenomenon of biological resynchronization. Cells are capable of communicating through light. When you change the frequency of your awareness, the amount of photons emitted by your DNA also changes. This is no longer a metaphor but an experiment. The light within you is truly communicating with your body, sending a new message that it is time to shift modes. The nervous system, once accustomed to reacting from fear, is now being programmed to respond to signals of trust. Emotions that once served as currents of survival are now becoming currents of creation. You do not need to force yourself to think positively, because true positivity does not come from thought, but from the level of alignment of light within you. As light begins to rewrite matter, the old mind will feel interrupted. It will say that you are tired, strange, losing energy. The truth is that energy is being redistributed. Every cell once starved by resistance is now being nourished by a direct source of light. The recoding process is not gentle, because light must pass through the places where darkness once hid. You may feel old memories surfacing, strange emotions appearing, as if the past is coming back to life. But it does not return to pull you down, it comes back to be illuminated. Each time you allow the light to pass through, a portion of darkness dissolves. Nothing needs to be healed, only energy needs to be reorganized. This is the moment when the body becomes the perfect mirror of the field. The vibrations you emit are no longer distorted. You will notice that the time between intention and manifestation shortens significantly. The things you think of begin to happen faster, not because of magic, but because the compatibility between signal and matter has reached coherence. When you think, energy is instantly translated into physical form. Everything around you begins to reflect the clarity within you. Others will see the light in your eyes change, your voice becoming slower but certain, not because you are trying to speak better, but because you have become the frequency everything wants to listen to. This process also changes how you perceive the body. You begin to realize that you are not inside the body, but the body is inside you. The field expands beyond physical boundaries. The places where you once felt separate now seem to dissolve into space. Every breath becomes a conversation between you and the whole. As light recodes, the body becomes like an instrument tuned to perfect pitch, every string resonating in harmony, every sound becoming part of a larger symphony. You are no longer just the player, you are the rhythm through which the music expresses itself. During this phase, old memories of suffering gradually lose their power, not because you forget, but because they no longer resonate. The body once stored memory in chemical form, but now it is being released through frequency. Each time you inhale, light enters your lungs, flows through your blood, weaves into your tissues, into every cell, like streams of new data being downloaded. The codes of fear, lack, and guilt are being overwritten by codes of gratitude, abundance, and peace. And as the body changes, the mind must follow. Truth does not descend from head to heart. It radiates from heart to head. This is how light rewrites the language of awareness. As light begins to work within you, the nature of understanding changes as well. You no longer need to prove anything through reasoning. Truth becomes direct experience, because you are it. Just as light cannot talk about shining, it simply shines. This is the level of awareness where all old knowledge dissolves, not because it is denied, but because it has been absorbed. The field does not need evidence. It is evidence. And when you become the field, every question fades because the answer is already woven into your existence. In the process of recoding, not only the body but the environment around you changes. Home, objects, people begin to react differently. Some will move away, some will draw closer. What no longer matches your frequency will fade softly, without conflict. This is the natural behavior of matter when rewritten by light. You are not losing, you are being cleared. Everything excessive is being returned to its original state, leaving only what truly resonates with you. This process continues until you no longer see a boundary between light and matter, between energy and form. Then you understand that the body is no longer a vessel but a testament. It does not need healing, it is healing itself. Every step you take is a signal from the field imprinting itself onto the world. You are no longer living in reality, you are rewriting reality through your very presence. And when the light completes its recoding, you do not become someone else, you simply return to being the light that, from the beginning, was never separate from you. When the light has completed the process of recoding, something strange happens. There is no longer a feeling of rebirth, nor anyone to be born. What you once called your new self does not actually appear, because it was never lost. It simply steps out of the mist of forgetting. This is the moment of emergence, when energy no longer seeks itself but begins to recognize that it has always been everywhere. You do not become a better version of yourself, you simply stop believing there is a boundary between you and the whole. Separation dissolves like smoke, light, quiet, without noise, without declaration. In the silence of awareness, the clearest realization is that you have never left the field. You merely closed your eyes in the dream that you were a separate point. At its deepest level, emergence is not the appearance of a self, but the self-recognition of consciousness. The I that was once the center of the world is now only a small wave in the ocean of awareness. You no longer try to understand what is happening, because the intention to understand is itself the product of separation. When you are in the frequency of the field, there is no understanding or not understanding, there is only recognition. That recognition is not intellect, but the natural state of energy when it reunites with its origin. All resistance, all questions, all journeys dissolve into one silent awareness that there was never a journey at all, only the movement of remembering. When you stand in this state, the world still exists, but it no longer governs you. You still act, still live, still love, but not from the need to prove. You no longer seek meaning, you become meaning. Every small action radiates the frequency of wholeness. When you speak, the field speaks. When you smile, the field vibrates. When you are silent, the universe pauses for a moment to listen to itself. This feeling is not power, it is absolute simplicity. All complexity dissolves leaving the purity of presence. And in that simplicity, you see there has never been a boundary between inside and outside, between soul and world, between energy and form. What once caused your suffering was the idea of separation. The self only exists as long as there is someone to compare to, something to achieve. But when light rewrites every layer of you, you see the truth that there is no achiever and nothing to achieve. All is the movement of the same stream of energy, alternating between the roles of seeker and sought. Emergence is the moment you see both roles and smile, because you know you are the stage. All effort disappears, all doubt dissolves, because there is no one left to believe or disbelieve. A strange peace envelops everything, one that cannot be broken because it was never created. In this state, love is no longer an emotion directed towards someone, but the essence of existence itself. You do not need to send love, because you are the current of it. Every step you take, every breath you draw, is the diffusion of harmonized energy. You no longer see others as others, but as the continuation of yourself in another form. When you look into someone's eyes, you see a familiar light, not coming from outside, but from the same source. There is no one to forgive, no guilt to release, because every conflict is just a wave of learning, returning to balance. The beauty of emergence is that you do not become a superhuman or a saint. You still have a body, you still have emotions, but they operate within the transparency of awareness. Fear may arise, but it cannot stay. Pain may come, but it leaves no trace. Joy comes, you smile. Sadness comes, you watch. There is no reaction, only response. What you call life is no longer a chain of events, but the melody of the field resonating through you. You are no longer the conductor, you are the instrument, and at the same time the sound. When you have arrived here, all ideas of the spiritual path dissolve by themselves. There is no destination, no level, no guide. All teachings that once helped now fall silent, not because they are wrong, but because you have become the experience they once described. All knowledge, rituals, and methods are only maps of a territory you have always inhabited. Emergence does not take you anywhere, it only removes the veil so you can see where you have always been. You realize that the field is not far, not inside, not outside. The field is existence itself. Those who look at you will sense something different, but they will not be able to name it. It is not that you are shining, it is that you no longer cast a shadow. Light passes through you without refraction. Every reaction of the world towards you changes, not because you tried, but because you no longer block it. In total transparency, reality no longer resists you, because you and it have merged into one movement. Everything that happens is precise, everything that comes is fitting. You no longer ask why, you simply see harmony. When your energy is fully merged with the field, there is nothing left to hold. You no longer need to protect beliefs because truth needs no protection. You no longer need to prove awakening because there is no one to be recognized. You no longer need to teach others because every soul is remembering in its own way. You simply exist, and in that existence, you become the still point where the entire universe regains balance. This is the true emergence, not of a new self, but of consciousness seeing itself. Emergence is the moment you understand that there has never been you in the field, only one life smiling through countless forms, and within every form, you have always been there, never separated, never lost, never born, and never apart from yourself. When energy is united, you no longer seek balance, you are balance itself. This is the stage of coherence where the entire system of energy, mind, and consciousness moves in rhythm with the field. There is no longer Separation between inner and outer, the observer and the observed dissolve into the same frequency. Every breath you take now carries the pulse of the universe. Every thought is a vibration shaping reality. You no longer try to create waves. You are the wave. Every movement you make becomes a direct response from the field, precise to each heartbeat. When you are still, the world is still. When you shine, everything around you begins to glow. This is no longer a metaphor, but the quantum mechanism of existence. In this state, you realize something profound, that energy does not react to your intention, it synchronizes with your frequency. The field does not hear words, it hears the rhythm of your presence. Therefore, you do not need to pray loudly or strain to a firm belief. You only need to become the frequency of what you wish to call forth. When you become love, love finds you. When you are wholeness, life begins to orbit around you in the geometry of completion. Coherence is not the effort to maintain high energy, but complete dwelling in the transparency of presence. When resistance ends, energy moves without friction, and within that you become more powerful than ever. Your body at this point is the most sophisticated instrument the field has ever created. Each cell is like an antenna, transmitting and receiving information simultaneously. Every decision, word, and action sends waves carrying your unique signature into the field. Those waves travel not only through space, but also through the structure of time. You become the symphony writing the frequencies of the world. Everything you touch carries subtle recalibration. When you look into someone with stillness inside, their energy begins to reorganize. No reasoning, no persuasion, only presence. Field recognizes field, and in that moment both return to their original frequency. True coherence does not occur in silent moments of meditation, but in the smallest actions. The way you walk, the way you listen, the way you see the world, all are transmissions. When you touch an object, your awareness leaves an imprint on it. When you pass through a space, your frequency adjusts the air. Your presence becomes the purest technology the universe has ever known, because you no longer manipulate energy. You are energy arranging itself to maintain order. You may not realize it, but the world begins to turn differently when you change. Everything that once opposed you now becomes resonance. The people of your past return in new roles. The paths that were blocked now open like rivers finding their course again. This is the manifestation of coherence. You do not pull reality toward you. Reality adjusts itself to match you. When you are in harmonious frequency, you no longer need to seek signs, because your very existence is the sign. Every door, every encounter, every breath is confirmation that the field is functioning perfectly. The most important understanding in coherence is that you no longer live for yourself. Every vibration of yours contributes to shaping the whole. A single harmonious thought can reach someone thousands of miles away. A kind action can soften the frequency of an entire energetic field around you. Every time you choose love over fear, the light in the field expands. When you choose presence over reaction, time folds and creates new space for creation. You are the heartbeat of a greater body, and each beat you make is a message to the universe that life continues through your form. When you are in coherence, there is nothing to hold on to. Belief becomes experience, hope becomes reality, and truth is no longer a concept but a living state. You do not need to prove this, for the field proves itself through you. Everything that happens in your life, even the smallest thing, is a reflection of precision. You begin to see beauty in what once seemed chaotic, because you understand that chaos is merely the delayed rhythm of harmony. There is nothing left but you and the field breathing together, creating together, remembering together that the whole was never divided. And then As you look around, you see the world reflecting your own light, not because it has changed, but because you have become so transparent that only light remains. Reality begins to bend around you, not because you command it, but because you have become the template of synchronicity. This is the moment you understand that creation does not reside in the hands of the creator, but in the union between the creator and what is created. You and the field are no longer two, only one pure movement, forming infinite worlds with every breath. If you can feel this, if there is even a subtle vibration in your heart, it is the sign that the field is recognizing itself through you. Allow that frequency to expand. Let the breath you take become the breath of the whole. Do not force yourself to change. Simply continue to exist within your own transparency. Awakening does not come from trying to become brighter, but from remembering that you have always been light. When you live as the frequency of harmony, the world around you adjusts itself to reflect it. And in every glance, every silence, every small gesture, you are helping shape the world, not through power, but through the coherence of a heart that has come home to the field.